My dad is Morris Ulorn, and my mother is Karen Forsman. They were married in 1961 in June, and they had me on April Fool's Day of 1962. My sister Sherry was born a little more than a year after me. Phil, I think he was like 10 months after Sherry, and then Rob. So the first four of us were within 4 years, and we were very close. We had a lot of fun together. Then Mom and Dad figured out how to wait a little while for the next ones. There's 8 of us, but then there was Arlene, and then Julie, Alan, and Tanya. And I love being from a family of 8. I didn't want 8 children myself, but I really enjoy having a lot of brothers and sisters. Dad he'd work, he was a farmer, and Mom was home with us. And at lunchtime, he would come in and play with us in the room while she finished lunch. And we later found out it was, like, you get some energy out of them for, a few minutes. I'm going to need some naps this afternoon. And so that was always his job, but he was so much fun. We thought Dad was just a blast because he would play really hard games with us at lunchtime. We had certain days we did certain jobs. You cleaned bedding on Fridays, you did the living room on one day, or we dusted, vacuumed, whatever. We would take turns with who did what. Sherry and I would always do the dishes by hand. We would sing songs together, and it could take a long time to do dishes. The boys would sweep and scrub if needed the floor while Sherry and I did the dishes. But so Dad finally started setting the timer on the oven. We had to be done with dishes by so long because it would take a while. Sherry and I had a lot of fun singing all the time. We did a lot of that, and that's kind of a Ulorn trait. When I got into high school, I joined choir. Kay Hale was our teacher, and she just brought a lot out in me. She was a good teacher. And then I started singing in the church choir. Dad sang funerals, weddings, church all the time, did a lot of solo work. And he said, sing with me. He had Sherry and I sing one Christmas with him together, and that was kind of fun. Whatever mass I go to, I go upstairs or wherever the choir is. Everybody seems with this tri-parish, it's wonderful because if you want to help, they welcome you. When we were little, I remember Saturday nights. We had to have our baths and our hair washed, and they had to be in rollers for us girls in order to watch Starlit Stairway. It was up in Spokane, and it was put on by Boyle Fuel. If you need coal or oil, call Boyle. Fairfax 8-1521. Fairfax 8-1521. We would sing that, and then we'd watch all the talent. Somebody'd come on and tap dance, somebody'd come on and sing, somebody'd come on and tell a joke, whatever, magicians. One year, Sally Kinzer is what she was then, Raider, she entered it, and we all sat in front of our little TV, and we watched Sally on TV, and I still remember that as a little girl. I don't know what year it was, but we were so proud to know her. We started out with a black and white TV that sat on a little, a gold little stand, and I remember when we finally got a bigger TV and color. And that was just very exciting. Bedtime was 8:30. Well, he'd shut the show off at 8:25 because you needed to be in bed by 8:30. We never saw the end of a show. We don't know how anything ended out at our house because Dad always shut it off 5 minutes before it was over. The phone was right in the hallway, the living room, the kitchen, the whatever, so everybody could hear you. But that had a big long cord on it, and us girls would sit and talk, and then Dad would come out, and he'd be, telling you 4 more minutes, or because you've been on there forever. I mean, if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, it'd been nuts. But the woodwork by the phone, somebody would draw a line with a pen while they were talking on the phone, and the next one would doodle. That whole one piece of wood is just doodles all the way down, carved into the wood, and it just. Dad didn't have the heart to take it down because he said, this is history. Well, one thing I noticed talking to people in Cottonwood, everybody talks about this creamery. And I never knew what the creamery was. We didn't shop in Cottonwood. Ferdinand had Fry Mercantile. We went to Ferdinand every day for groceries for the mail. Back in those days, you could sell homegrown beef. And so I know Mom and Dad, and probably Vern and Peg too, they would bring in beef, and then Vince would butcher it all and sell it to other people. And then Mom and Dad had credit there, and that's how they paid for their groceries all the time. When they were out of money, Vince called and said, "You guys need to bring some more beef in." When they decided to consolidate the schools, they Sherry was in first grade, I was in second grade at St. Maurice School in Ferdinand, and both of us made our first communion because I think they were so worried we were going to public school, we were going to lose everything religious-wise and all that. So they made sure she got baptized, so I don't think anybody had to be baptized the next year. And so we just started going to Cottonwood and consolidated, and that was so much fun because there were just so many more kids. Then it was graduation year. Mount St. Helens blew, and it blew a week, 2 weeks before we graduated high school. And then I graduated high school, and that night at the graduation party, back when they used to have those, thank goodness they don't anymore, I met Mike Lorando. And he had a brother and a sister in my class, but he was always a whole school ahead of me, so I really didn't know who he was. He was just that much older. So I dated him after that, and Mom had Tanya first part of November, and her dad had just had a heart attack, and he died after finding out Tanya was born and everything was okay. So Mom was going through a lot, and here I was saying, I'm going to get married, and we want to get married in February. But the wedding day was actually a beautiful day. We got married in Ferdinand, came over here to Cottonwood, and we had rented a trailer house just above the community hall, one of Dola Jones's. She used to own a whole bunch of places here in town. That's a name we don't hear anymore, but she had all these rentals in town. And we rented one from her, and we walked up there, changed our clothes for our honeymoon, and we took off, and we went to Orfino, of all places, the first night. But we stayed quite a while at our wedding, and then we headed to Missoula. And it was so much littler back then, but we went there for a couple of days and came home. We didn't have much, but it was just to get away and enjoy it. We rented that trailer house just below Pat Long's shop up there, and we lived there maybe a year. And then we bought the trailer house that Andy Ulorn had lived in it, and then I think Ron and Debbie Uhlencott did. And then we bought it from Ron, and it was in the trailer court. And we lived there 2 more years, maybe 3 years. And then we bought this house. This house, the room I'm in right now, used to be the Cottonwood Credit Union. Joe, they had an accordion thing that they shut so that his wife Martha could do the kitchen stuff, do the home stuff there. And he'd be out here in his little office, and he ran the credit union from here for a few years out of this house. And I always thought that was kind of funny. We waited 8 years to have kids. I don't know, we weren't quite ready. Well, and I think at 18, I still had to grow up. Dr. Sigler delivered him, and he said, "I don't think he's yours, Mike." And Mike says, "Why?" And he goes, "He doesn't have a beard." And he had this red hair. My grandma, Forsman, Mom's mom, had red hair. All of us kids, all those grandkids she had, nobody had red hair until Eric. So she always thought he was a little bit special because that red came out, finally. So then we got pregnant with Emily. And she was like 2 pounds lighter than Eric. And we were like not even knowing how to hold her because he was so big when he was born. I mean, just a little over 9 pounds. And then she was a little 7-pound thing. And her dang curly hair. Oh my goodness. That was hard. Trying to comb her hair. She'd cry. She hated it. It just got kinkier, curlier all the time. And that is her dad that she got that from. They were a couple fun kids to raise. I wanted my kids to be a little bit ornery, and they were. I wanted my kids to stand up for themselves, to be confident people. Right after Eric was born, we bought a boat, and our kids, they were on the lake just about every week. We did a lot of camping, a lot of boating. it was a good time, and they knew on Sunday it was their day, and we'd go play. And there were years I'd be shocked if we missed a Sunday, a Saturday or a Sunday going to Dorshek. When Emily went to college, she moved into a house that Eric was in, and so those two decided to live together again. And I think they've moved into another house together. They got along really well. They really did. And I asked Eric if he was coming home for a holiday. And he said, no, I think I'm going to hang out with Heather. And I said, who is Heather? And he said, Heather Shireman. And I said, didn't know you were dating Heather Shireman. And he said, yeah, Mom, it's getting pretty serious. And I'm like, well, you need to let me know these things. And they got married in September. And Heather has 2 little kids. She has Rylan and Ashlyn. And they were in the wedding party, and their little tucks and pretty dresses. And Eric, he'd been an ornery little fart sometimes, and in high school he'd get into trouble. And he all of a sudden was responsible for 2 kids, and he just took it on, and I'd never seen anything like that. I didn't expect to see that. Those were, they were his responsibility, and he took that very seriously. Then Emily and Taylor got married a year later. She always wanted a December wedding. She wanted snow. It was not snowing, and it was not snowing. And then to do pictures, they had to go up towards the convent. They went around a corner up here, and there was a little bit of snow on a hillside, so they stood in front of that to get snow in their wedding pictures. And by then, Michaelin was born, Eric and Heather's, and then a few years later, Shaylin was born. So we've got 4 grandkids. The day Michaelin was born was April 10th. And Eric called me 4 a.m. and said, Mom, we're headed in to have our baby. I said, Eric, it was the day we were moving my mom into a home for Alzheimer's. I said, I can't be there today. I'll be there tomorrow. So that was a hard day, but I had something good to go to the next day, so that helped. Mom got Alzheimer's young, way too young. And Dad did really good with her for as long as he could. She wondered what she did wrong, that we were moving her. She didn't do anything wrong. Then, a couple years later, Dad started going downhill. I think we left him with Mom too long, and his health went down. So we picked Boise to send Dad to. We had Mom in Lewiston, because the youngest 4 kids lived down there, and we thought that would be a good place for him. In 2018, Dad fell and broke his hip. They said he wouldn't make it through surgery, so we needed to get down there. He didn't last through the day even, and just about the next day. Then the next couple years, we took a lot of trips, the 3 of us, Phil and Sherry and I, to go down and see Mom. On New Year's Day of 2020, I always joke that Mom saw 2020 coming. She saw COVID. She said, I'm out of here. And she didn't make it through New Year's Day, but we did not have to deal with not being able to go in and see her as she was dying. We were all there. That was a blessing. And we were actually lucky it was Dad that died before Mom, because Mom didn't know. We didn't have to deal with a grieving spouse, because she couldn't remember it for 5 minutes later. So that was another blessing. Mom used to take trips with her mom and her sisters. And when we were old enough to do it, we decided, we wanted to do that too, because they always had such a good time. We never did anything that really cost a lot of money. It just wasn't in us, and it was more about just being together and talking and playing card games or dice or something like that. That's kind of fun. The Ullorns, I don't remember when we started this. Jane Ullorn was still with us, Jane Tonis, and we planned it for like a year because you tried to set the date, but we had to have monthly meetings because it was just too much fun not to. And we had so much fun putting those reunions on, and we have great turnout. And well, there were 12 kids, the 2 nuns, but the other 10 all had kids, and it's going to die out someday, but dang, I love those days. I've always planted a garden and flowers, but I'm getting to where I like to start seeds. I have we call it a greenhouse, but it's actually more of a cold frame because we've got open door windows and stuff in it. But I've got plants out there. I've got plants under lights upstairs. I need my fix. I need to be working with plants and flowers. Be careful what you say. You can't ever take back words. And I've tried to be really careful of that. Mike and I both. We don't yell at each other. We don't, we know we're mad, but not too much is said. Because you can forgive them, but you can't forget it. So I think when somebody told me that, I thought that was really important. And then with raising my kids, an older lady one day told me, pick your nose carefully. You don't have to say no to everything. Maybe give in on a couple things and make that no be for something really important. They have to grow up. They have to experience the world. And they'll decide on their own that that probably wasn't a great choice, but I'm not going to let them do something that, could have hurt them or anything. But you learn by action, not by words. My advice to my kids and my grandkids would be you can't love anybody if you don't love yourself. Always know that you're worth it, and you will see it in everybody else. And don't let anybody put you down. Don't keep taking it if it is happening, because we're all God's children. We're all worth something, and you cannot love if you don't feel it for yourself. You can't love others. So that would be my thing. Yeah, that'd be my advice. As I get older, you look back at your life and you hope you made good decisions. And I don't think I have any regrets. I think right now, I think everything is sitting where I want it to sit. Yeah, stuff could be rosier, maybe. But does that make it better? I don't know that it makes it better. I've had a good life. I've really had a good life. I've always felt loved. Sometimes you see somebody else having something a little different than you, and I think I don't know. I don't get too jealous of anything because you also don't know what else is going on beyond what you're seeing. So the only life I know is mine, and I'm happy with my life.